Let's talk about something nobody wants to admit out loud. What do you do when your marriage feels dead? Not dramatic, not abusive, just quiet, distant, flat, no fighting, no passion, no connection, just silence. And here's where most people get stuck. They confuse silence with peace and control with effort. But neither one heals a marriage. So the real question is this: when your marriage feels dead, is God asking you to surrender, or is He asking you to stand up and lead? In Christian spaces, we hear this a lot. Just surrender it to God. Let go and let God. Pray and wait. And listen, surrender is biblical. But here's what nobody tells you. Surrender does not mean stay silent, avoid hard conversations, accept emotional neglect, endure dysfunction in the name of faith. That's not surrender. That's spiritual avoidance. And avoidance will slowly kill intimacy. God never asked you to surrender your voice. He asked you to surrender control. There's a difference. Now let's talk about the other side. When surrender feels scary, we swing the other way into control. Control looks like over-explaining your feelings, repeating the same conversation in different words, monitoring moods, phones, tone, effort, trying to manage your spouse's growth. Control sounds like, if I say it better, pray harder, explain clearer, then they'll finally change. But control doesn't create intimacy. It creates pressure. And pressure breeds resentment. You cannot control someone into connection. You cannot nag someone into emotional safety. You cannot fix a marriage by managing another adult's heart. Here's the balance most couples miss. God calls us to surrender what we can't control and take responsibility for what we can. Let me make this plain. God calls you to surrender outcomes, timing, your spouse's choices, the need to be right, the need to win the argument. God calls you to take responsibility for your honesty, your boundaries, your obedience, your emotional maturity, your willingness to speak truth in love. Jesus never avoided truth to keep the peace, and He never forced transformation either. He invited, He confronted, He walked away when necessary, and He loved without enabling. You may need surrender if you're more obsessed with fixing than listening. You're exhausted because you're trying to manage what isn't yours. Your emotions are driving your decisions instead of wisdom. Every reaction is fueled by fear, not faith. You've replaced prayer with pressure. You talk at your spouse more than you talk to God. Surrender says, God, I release what I cannot carry. You may need to take responsibility if you keep avoiding hard conversations. Silence feels safer than honesty. Boundaries are missing. And without boundaries, disrespect has room to grow. Nothing changes because nobody is leading with truth. Love without truth is not love, it's fear. Taking responsibility says, God, I will do my part, even if it's uncomfortable. Here it is. You cannot resurrect a marriage with control, and you cannot heal it with silence. Dead seasons don't mean dead marriages, but they do demand discernment. God may be calling you to release, confront, pause, rebuild, or reestablish order. But He will never call you to abandon wisdom, truth, or your God-given voice. If your marriage feels dead right now, this isn't the end. It's an invitation. An invitation to stop confusing surrender with passivity and stop confusing control with leadership. If this spoke to you, comment, revive, subscribe to Real Marriage, Real Talk. And check the description for the workbook that walks couples through dead seasons without losing themselves or their faith. God, give us wisdom for what we cannot change, courage for what we must confront, and love that doesn't run when things get hard.